you have to be really brave. You have to be able to let go of the past, let go of the identity, and you have to have faith and be open to what is trying to come in.
So many entrepreneurs try to avoid going into that state of high-level focused discipline, which requires us to say no to a lot of things. As a woman, I'm curious how you respond to that now.
I actually felt a moment of like, I think I'm going to crack. I think I'm actually going to lose it here, but I'm really trying to keep it together. Looking back now and thinking about the amount of work and time and energy I put into building Body by Simone, I don't think I could do it now if I'm being 100% honest. It was a massive success, and I didn't even realize that the business was such a success because all I was doing was looking forward to the next thing and what's coming next, and really not stopping to be present and go, look at all of this. I've got DVDs and apps, shoes, clothing, and TV show, all of this stuff. Now, when I look back, I was like, wow, that was something. There's not a huge amount of information, especially in the perimenopausal, menopausal stage of what exercises we should be doing. Like the late 40s to early 50s, the focus should now be on strength training. Like we should actually not be doing the amount of cardio that we're doing to level our hormones and keep our cortisol levels lower. And so that means lifting weights.
OG Mastery, the original gangsta, god and goddess, all coming into mastery. We're coming into you. This is where we talk business, sex, relationships, money, health, entrepreneurship, and self-awareness. Now your host, Robyn Linn. Before building a global brand accessed by top A-list celebrities, athletes, as well as those who desire a dancer's body, Simone De La Rue graced the Broadway stage as a professional dancer. Body by Simone transforms women's gorgeous bodies through her dance-based fitness system, but more profoundly, Simone's influence leads us to an awakening state of our goddess-like confidence. Simone joins us today to share her insights on super success, rebuilding business, and the female body through change, struggle, childbirth, and balance. Simone, welcome to OG Mastery.
Thank you for having me.
I have been following you for a while. I took one of your classes in LA. Your class was one of the hardest classes that I've ever taken in my life. And I want to say that in the most empowering way. I left feeling like I had more energy, more vitality, and also more inspiration to keep moving. And I want to say that I'm excited to share this session with you because I find that as I get older, as I hit 40 years old, all of my friends as well who have children, we have businesses, we have lovers or partners, we break up, get divorced, go through so many different emotional changes. But the one thing that we have is our body, and the body being the temple, and the temple being something that really guides us to deepening ourself, knowing ourself, and then allowing ourself to express who we are in the world. And one of the things I feel listeners can really take away from with you is this element of kind of where you came from in the Broadway sense, and that drive and that discipline to then build this epic world-class business, to then attract people who are just so inspired by you, to then really feel that you're ready to reinvent yourself because life changes, you change, and maybe there's a sense of rediscovering who you are in business. So these are some of the things I want to talk about. And the first is really about what it was like to be a dancer on Broadway and then to decide that you're going to leave. What was that experience like for you on Broadway, and then that moment where you said, I've had enough, I have to go?
Yeah, it's so interesting because I started dancing at the age of 3, and I was just so focused on dance for, obviously a huge part of my life. And to tick the box to say I did West End in London, to tick that to say I did Broadway in London, you think about, the years building up into that. And if you think about starting at the age of 3, my first professional show was when I was 18. So that already that's 15 years of hard training that you put in, that you devote of your time and energy to this art. And it's a weird thing when you get to actually achieve that dream and you tick that box, because part of it's like, oh, well, I did it. This is what I've been working towards, since I was 3 years old. And then sometimes you get there and you say, oh, is this it? Is this is what I've been working towards, and this is it. This is the end goal. So for me, it's I always have loved performing. I've loved dancing. It's always been my first love, but it was an interesting space to get to be able to finally say, okay, I've had enough of this. I'm ready to walk away. And I think a big part of that was just wanting to own my own destiny, take control of my life, um, and just try and move forward and not be in the hands of someone saying, yes, you are right for this role, or no, you're not right for this role. So it was an aha moment. I was in a Broadway dressing room. I was sitting with a group of women. Our show was coming to an end. We'd done, a 12-month stint on Promises, Promises. And everyone was talking about the next audition and, oh, did you audition for this? Or did you know so-and-so's looking for this part? And I just thought, I don't want to do this anymore. It was just kind of exhausting. So it was a freeing feeling. It was a terrifying feeling. It was, a lot of sadness of letting go of so much of a big chunk of my life. But I was definitely ready to move forward into the next chapter.
Thank you. Yeah. I I think a lot of people relate to that, especially starting off something very early. And they say it takes at least 10,000 hours to get into a state of mastery. And I think once we do potentially master something, we we need to keep evolving and growing. And so whether it's that singular thing that becomes something more advanced or evolved, or it transcends into something more profound for us, like you shared. And starting at 3 years old is is definitely, yeah, being groomed for something is challenging, because then you reach your adulthood and say, this that wasn't me. Who am I now? So when you grew up, was it very disciplined then? I'm assuming that you grew up, were your parents disciplined, or were your coaches disciplined, your teachers? What was that like for you? Because building the brand that you did requires high level discipline, and a lot of entrepreneurs may not understand what that even is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, definitely dance. I always say this, any young children, get them involved in a sport or an art or something that creates that discipline and focus, because you definitely, you need that. And that was really the grounding. I was never pushed into dance.
Yeah, we were talking about the discipline that's required, and how so many entrepreneurs, they try to avoid going into that state of high level focus discipline, which I've experienced. And it requires us to say no to a lot of things. And as a woman, I'm curious how you respond to that now, and how it stems from some of what you learned growing up. Because part of me likes to avoid this discipline that it takes in business, because it means that I have to let go of my relationships and sometimes self-care practice, or maintaining myself and getting sleep I need. And so the balance, of course, but that high level focus and that hyper focus that led to Body by Simone as a brand, I'm assuming came from some qualities that you picked up growing up.
Yeah, I'm very thankful for dance. I'm thankful for my ballet teacher. She really instilled discipline in me from such a young age. And I think that that's definitely a skill. I don't think everybody has it in life. And I really managed to carry that on. Just listening then to what you were saying, I now I have perspective, because I've been doing Body by Simone for 13 years now. But if I actually look back, I was hyper disciplined when I started the business. I was coming out of a long-term relationship. I didn't have a child, and that was my sole focus. That's all I focused on. I ate, live, breathe, sleep. That was my Body by Simone was my main focus. As the years have gone on, I've come into another relationship. I've had a child, and 100% your energy has to go. It has to go elsewhere, especially when you become a mother. That's one of the things that I've found, that internal battle where you want to be present with your child 100% of the time, but you also have a business. We can talk about that more later, but I think, one thing I always say to anyone, if you have a child, to get them in a sport or an art or something that they love and they're passionate about, and that they can learn that discipline, because it's a skill that you can take for the rest of your life and put towards, anything.
Do you feel now, I think it's different when we're in our 20s and even in our early 30s. I feel that it's different. Our energies are different. Our hormones are different. Do you feel that now it's different? And for women, I can say late 30s, 40s into 50s, that we just want different things for ourselves. We want a different experience. Or is it just that we're wired where it may not be healthy for us to put that kind of mental discipline into that kind of a high level brand? I mean, I know it's possible. I've pushed 16-hour days for 2 years, in the blockchain space, and I burn out, almost died from hemorrhaging, and now it's taken me 1.5 years to get my health back. So I'm not saying don't do it, but is your perspective different now moving forward? Not that you're going to wish you did things differently, because of course it's amazing, but.
Yeah, if I look back, COVID really destroyed so many businesses. It destroyed mine. But if I look back prior to that, I was on a plane from LA, New York, London, repeat every month. I was doing that journey because I had studios in each. And I remember my mum saying to me, Simi, when is this going to end? Like, this is too much for one person. And I kept saying, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it. And then I had a child, and then I was trying to travel. As soon as he was born, 8 weeks, I was back in London, breastfeeding, trying to take care of my son and teaching and building this business. And I actually felt a moment of like, I think I'm going to crack. I think I'm actually going to lose it here, but I'm really trying to keep it together. And then COVID hit and everything shut down. And the silver lining that I'm trying to take away from all of the damage that it did do to my business and so many others is that it taught us to be still and be present, and I guess reassess what we wanted to do with our lives and what was really important. Looking back now and thinking about the amount of work and time and energy I put into building Body by Simone, I don't think I could do it now, if I'm being 100% honest. And a big part of me is rebuilding the brand, but also rebuilding myself. Like, I feel exhausted. I feel like the last 10, 13 years were absolutely exhausting. It was a massive success, and I didn't even realize that the business was such a success, because all I was doing was looking forward to the next thing and what's coming next, and really not stopping to be present and go, look at all of this. I've got DVDs and apps, shoes, clothing, and TV show, all of this stuff that now when I look back, I was like, wow, that was something. That really was something.
My teacher is an Ajahn monk I studied with, a Buddhist monk, and he said to me once, he said, the problem with a lot of people is that you want to stop and smell the flowers and smell the roses. He goes, that's not the path. You have to keep going. And I thought, the more that I started practicing Qigong and the Bagua, which is the Tao, and being more in my body after the 11-year eating disorder that I had, that I want to ask you some about. But what I realized is it's a little bit of both. It's about not getting lost in the flowers and the garden, and then forgetting that I had this path journey I was on, and then, ending up getting stuck in the weeds. But I find that what I've learned is that it has to be a bit of both, where I'm building forward momentum, and as I am enjoying the sensuality along the way, but not getting caught up in it. And I think it doesn't have to be an either or, it's more of an and. And I feel for me, Pilates, after injuring myself with yoga, Pilates got me back in, and your practices of this whole body movement and flow, and your whole fitness routine is about enjoying the movement and being in your body and feeling sexy and gorgeous and fun, even if it doesn't look right, because it's not about looking right. And I think that's part of what attracted me to your practices, and that I feel is missing in the fitness industry, which is interesting that celebrities flocked to your brand. So I want to ask for a moment, and I know many celebrities who had, like me, eating disorders, and we're restricting things all the time so that we look a certain way, to appear a certain way. And at the end of the day, it's like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this for someone else? How do I actually feel in my body? And so how much, when you were in the process of building By Simone and then working with all of these amazing people, did you find that that's what they really loved about your practices, was that they had that sense of, it isn't about the looks. I mean, I'm looking the best I've ever looked because of your routines, but it's not about that. That's not my main drive. It's actually about being in my body, feeling good. Is that what you feel inspired a lot of people to come?
I think so. I think people were attracted to it because I've always kept it real. I've never said to you, oh, you can lose 5 pounds in 5 days, or, eat this mung bean or this ground this powder and you'll lose, belly fat, or yes, you can spot reduce. Or I've just been very real. And I think that was quite refreshing to a lot of people, especially celebrities. The celebrities get told all the time, oh yes, anything you need and want, you can get. So I just tried to be very human, I guess, and authentic. And I think that resonated with them. But also, I always say this, and I've said this, and this is what I tell all of my staff, is that at the end of the day, we're selling a feeling. We're not selling how you're going to look in a bikini. We're selling the feeling of how exercise makes you feel emotionally, spiritually, and mentally. And so I think it was also that as well, because dance, the element of dance that's in my workouts is so fun and joyous and goofy and silly. And so it's like you would come into the practice of the workout and just have a really good time. You get an incredible workout, but also have a nice time doing it. So I think people just love that. What didn't come across as a negative chore or a punishment. There's so many workouts like, let's punish your body, let's do this, let's push yourself. And so I think it was definitely a mixture of things in there, the reason that resonated with so many people, and especially the celebrities.
Mm-hmm. And it's not, like you said, it's not results driven, and it's not, oh, I'm going to get this outcome and I have to get it, and we're so fixated on a specific outcome. But I will say, one of the things I've found that is essential is demonstrating your offering. So when we look at you, you don't need to say a word. You represent. And I think part of the problem with today's marketing and Instagram prophets, the influencers, who I feel I'm very honored to have grown up when I did in the 80s and 90s. I feel very deeply saddened by the women that have to grow up in today's society, because it's so challenging to see on Instagram the fake appearances when you know that they've done 30 takes to get that perfect, and it's a hired photographer, the best lighting on the perfect day for them with, and there's nothing wrong with a beautiful brand, but but that is being sold as like reality TV, you know, and I think a lot of marketing and branding is lost today with just literally people that aren't developing skills like we did. We took 15 years to develop and master, and then we share it. And it's, do you find, do you have a message for women who are struggling right now, who don't want to use these fake filters and have to put on a cakeload of makeup and, you know, tuck in their stomach and show their, you know, is there something you can share with women that may assist in knowing that it's actually more attractive to be real and connected and not need that external validation?
Yeah, I'm so glad that I didn't grow up in this era either. I just find it, even for me, I find it very triggering when I see things, and you can't help but make comparison. And it's like, what is that person doing? I should be doing more. You're always feeling less than. And I think if I'm feeling this, and my job is to motivate and inspire people, and I coach people. It's like, if I'm feeling this, then of course everyone else is feeling that. Like, does a bikini shot trigger you? How to, but I think when you connect with someone on social media, the best thing to do is, like, if someone triggers you, mute the account. You can still follow them, but mute it so that you don't have to see it. I just think if something's not serving you, get rid of it, and that's very powerful to do that. But the most important thing, and I try and say this message quite often, is that social media is not reality. It's a snapshot of someone's perfect highlight reel, and I'm at fault of doing that too, because we are at some point trying to promote a business or trying to market something. But I think, I opened up just recently, said, you're not going to catch me sobbing, on Instagram, telling them about my personal life, because I just think that that's not appropriate. So I try and keep that, at some point, a bit of a boundary there. But at the same time, I'm not happy, and I don't jump out of bed every day and say, come on, let's work out. So I think it's really important for women to understand that, yeah, social media is not reality. Don't compare yourself. If something's triggering you, mute it, and just try and be around positive influences. And maybe if you don't have to be on social media, don't. If you don't have a business, I would say don't be on it.
There's a lot of women that I've coached and mentored. 4 out of 5 of my clients, out of the thousands I've worked with, have had eating disorders like myself. Did you struggle with that at any point in your career? And what was that like in that healing process?
Yeah, I really had very healthy boundaries with food. And I actually say that my mom was incredible, and I'm grateful to her for this. But I didn't have it. I came out without an eating disorder, which is very, very rare for someone, in the dance world. However, I saw so many of my friends, who were starving themselves. Like, back in the day, it was like you drink a can of Coca-Cola and smoke a cigarette, and then they wouldn't eat all day, and then they would dance, and then they'd injure themselves. So many lost their careers, at 15, 16, 17, because their bodies just couldn't possibly handle the stress that was put on them. So that for me was another thing. It was like, I wasn't necessarily, I remember auditioning for the Australian Ballet School and being turned down because of my figure, which, and I was like kind of broken for a little bit, but then I just went, well, you know what, I'm going to shift. And I moved into musical theatre, which ended up being such a blessing anyway, because it was what I love to do, and I had a great career in it. But there's definitely so many, and in the fitness world as well, so many unhealthy messages. And that's been a big part of the other thing that I've been trying to focus on. Let's, strong is sexy. Let's focus on feeling mentally, emotionally, physically strong, rather than, eating baby food and trying to, lose all of this weight. So I've witnessed it throughout my life, on the sidelines of being a dancer and in fitness. But I myself have always managed to have a really healthy relationship with food, which I feel so grateful for.
Do you feel that has to do with the self-esteem that you've
Yeah. I think it's interesting because, as a dancer and as a fitness instructor, you're looking at your body, you're looking in a mirror 12 hours a day. And of course I have my issues, but I just think my self-esteem was really yeah, I guess I must have been praised, or really felt loved and secure, and felt that
Mm.
that I felt okay about my body, and so was able to kind of push through those awkward teenage years, or push through because I always felt like my body was so strong. I was physically strong. I could work out for 7 hours. I could dance for hours. And so I tried to focus on that. That was the gift of how strong I was, as opposed to I need to be thinner. I need to be thinner.
Wow.
But at the end of the day, we all have our control issues. So maybe mine's more OCD about keeping things clean. But if you look at an eating disorder, it's trying to take control of one part of your life, and whatever
Right.
that trauma or trigger is. So I guess we're all control freaks in different ways, but it comes out. Um,
Mm. Which leads me to what I wanted to ask about those of us who are dealing with hormone changes and feelings of, in a way, different about ourselves, and having to make really hard decisions like, maybe I don't want this 8-figure business running my life. Maybe it's not as important as I thought. Maybe I don't need that to feel good. So with these hormonal changes that we go through, what are some of the ways that you feel that women can still work out? Like, how do our workouts change from 20s to 30s, 30s to 40s and 50s? And what do we need to do differently? And what are some practical ways that we as women can look to really staying, like you said, strong and healthy, but also knowing that we need to adapt with it?
Yeah, I'm really passionate about this because it feels authentic to me. I'm 48, I'll be 49 in October. My body has always been my tool. I know that I've been a machine over the years. I've really pushed myself. But for me, I'm noticing the changes, and I know that there's not a huge amount of information, especially in the perimenopausal, menopausal stage, of what exercises we should be doing. Open dialogue and conversations around that. But in our 20s, and even like kind of like early 30s, the focus is on cardio. The cardio, is the good endorphins. It makes us feel good. We're getting that, that heart pump, good for our cardiovascular health. It also come from the age of, oh, well, if I do loads of cardio, well, I'll lose weight. That was probably very successful in your early 20s. When you have a child, or when you start to hit the hormonal change, which is different for all women, can start as early as, I've got a client that's like 36, but most around that, like the late 40s to early 50s, where the focus should now be on strength training. Like, we should actually not be doing the amount of cardio that we're doing to level our hormones and keep our cortisol levels lower. And so that means lifting weights, and also I was a dancer. So the most we would lift is like 1 pound or 3 pounds. Like, that was heavy. And so it's like, oh no, like, women don't lift weights because you'll bulk up, which, to actually bulk up muscle is one of the hardest things to do, and especially as you're aging, to like build muscle and maintain muscle. You don't just wake up and look like Popeye, or wake up and look like Thor. That is that is hundreds of grams of protein every single day. That is doing overloading on heavier weights. So I really tried to be the myth buster on that for women, is that you're not going to wake up and bulk up overnight. But that should be the focus now. And so if you're looking at training 5 days a week, 3 of those days should be strength training, and 2 cardio training. But it's hard when you're perimenopausal and you're feeling lethargic, and you've got no motivation, and you've lost your sex drive, and you're like, the thought of exercising is just like, oh, I can't be bothered. I don't have the energy to do that. It is very challenging. You really have to kind of force yourself. So I say to people, like, focus on just doing 10 minutes. Just get up and start and just do 10 minutes. And that will help motivate you and build you you up from there. Showing yourself some grace, not pushing yourself too hard. We get in our heads and just think, oh my goodness, I'm a failure, or I'm no good, or like, what's the point if I can't even do 10 minutes? What's the point? So a lot of it is really, showing yourself some grace and allowing yourself to be present in that moment, how your body's feeling. But no, it's definitely hard. I don't want to get up and get out of bed and work out every day, but I focus on the feeling, the after feeling of how I feel. And, if only we could bottle that, we would be very successful.
The oxytocin. Yeah. I got the rebounder trampoline that you had on your site, and that really helped me because I used to run on trails barefoot for about 5 to 8 hours a day, and then work very little, but it was what I could do at the time. And now I I don't want to dedicate that many hours because I want to do other things with my life, but also, yeah, I don't have that energy anymore, and it's a little strange because, yeah, like you said, putting in that many hours working out to then shift into it only being a little bite size of it. I need to then make good use of those 15 minutes. And I found strength training to be a powerful way to do that. And I'm working through those injuries. So if we have injury, how do we work through that with the weights? Do we just do less weight than maybe we'd want to? Do we focus on building out the opposing muscles instead? How do we help ourselves when there's an injury?
Yeah, so when you have an injury, of course you have to heal it, but you have to build the strength back up again in that area. So it's a kind of like catch 22 when people are like, I've got bad knees, so I can't do squats. It was like, actually, squats are what you need to do to build your quad, your calf, and your hamstring to protect your knee. So you know you're not going to go and start with 15 or 20 pounds, and if that means you're starting with 5 pounds and you're slowly building up your strength and progressing each week or each month to get to a higher weight, then that's what you should do. Always look at really trying to fully repair the injury first, but that means not just sitting on the sofa on your butt. That means actually working that injury, rebuilding. I always get so inspired by when I see dancers or athletes, who have like torn all the ligaments in their foot, and then they come back bigger and stronger and better. And so that's not just from sitting on the couch. That's like using, PT, their strength, slowly strengthening that muscle again, strengthening that tendon again. So that takes commitment, that takes patience, that takes energy to rebuild that. But you can absolutely repair your injuries. And it's just, making sure that you're doing it correctly, making sure that really focusing on your form and technique, and doing it, taking time to do it. It doesn't happen overnight.
I found that the key for me is myofascial release to then open up the body, and it's helped me a lot to then rebuild, like you're saying, which goes with what I love to talk about, which is entering this pain instead of avoiding it and throwing it into a closet and never talking to it ever again, but actually bringing light to it, bringing movement to it. So when we're looking at this transition of where you are now and looking at other women as well in business, a lot of my friends have children and are divorced, and it's really challenging for them. But there's this level of perseverance, and something comes through where no matter what, I'm going to take care of my kids, I'm going to be the best mom I can, and I'm going to make money and maybe find love again and not give up on myself. And so when we're entering in that pain cycle, because it is painful to go through it, what are some of the ways you have found, because it's such an interesting paradox to sit with ourselves and have patience with ourselves and just be in silence and stillness and not need to do anything or fix anything, to then this other energy, which is to be in the doer, to be in the action, to push through and to not be a victim and to keep going and to persevere. And so the yin and yang always kind of meeting each other. So what's Simone De La Rue's version of this kind of yin yang balance in life?
Yeah, I mean, well, we just saw then that, I'm a single parent. I work full time at summer holidays, and my son came in to talk to me, even though I said to him, darling, mummy's working and I'm filming, recording a podcast, so you can't interrupt me. And I just think, you know what? You just have to go with it. You just have to just go with it. And some days you're winning the mum game and you're like, and I'm an amazing mum and I'm doing everything. And then other days you're not, and you're winning the business Barbie day, and it's like, it's a push pull, a constant push pull. It's a constant balance. I really try to not beat myself up too much, because I get up in the morning and I just go, right, I have to do this. I don't have a choice. I have a village of friends that help me out, but at the end of the day, it's just me and Oscar, and we make it work, so um, I think I just get up and do. I try not to be too hard on myself. I understand that, life is messy and gritty, and, just trying to keep the faith. I think that is another one, and keep the faith and be open, because just as I've had massive success and massive love, I've also had the opposite of that. And life is just one big continuous circle, and it will come back around again, and knowing to be open and wait for that again. And just try and live in the present moment, which is very hard. But it's not easy. I'm not going to lie. That it's well, like where there's light, there's darkness, isn't it? That for me is, I've always operated in a state of light, and I always am attracted to the light. But there's definitely darkness, and that's the balance. And so it's learning to say, okay, just because it's dark doesn't mean it's bad.
Exactly. So building something that we care about, and I call it dharma because it's dharmic, meaning my heart's into it, my soul's into it, I'm passionate, I love it. How do we, and maybe this is what you're working with now and figuring out now, and playing in this energy, but what's that like in terms of, this thing over here was successful, it made me money, I'm good at it, I'm so smart, I'm the best at what I do, but actually it's not healthy for me, it's not fulfilling, I can't really keep up with it as I thought I could, and I'm actually called and pulled over here. So how do we play in that energy? Because it to me, it involves a lot of faith, because it's such a different energy where it doesn't rely on my attitude, but it's more about what my heart wants and my soul wants. And it's scary. It's scary to follow my heart sometimes and trust.
Yeah, I think I talk about this, like life is kind of in chapters, and so I feel like I've had two really big chapters of my life. The first chapter was a dancer, the second chapter was Body by Simone. And I believe that I'm ready for chapter number 3. If I'm being honest and being very vulnerable with you, I feel a little bit in limbo, because I have had such great success, and I still have a big passion for Body by Simone. But I do feel a calling for something else and something new, and some way of evolving. But it's hard to let go of the old when it's what it's I was a dancer, that's what I would tell people. Now I'm CEO of Body by Simone, that's what you would tell people and identify as. And it's time to move to the next thing. So you have to be really brave. You have to be able to let go of the past, let go of the identity, and you have to have faith and be open to what is trying to come in. but it can't come in if you are still holding on to the old. And so I know that I'm still holding on to the old, but I'm slowly opening the door to what is coming. So it's a weird stage that I'm in at the moment, because I'm still in the troops. Like, I'm still trying to rebuild, the business that was taken away from COVID, but also remain positive and open to the next installment of Simone, or the next chapter. So it's a bizarre place to be in, and I feel vulnerable, and I don't feel in control, which is hard for A-type control freaks. So yeah, I do feel a little bit in limbo, and I feel vulnerable, but I'm trying to go with the flow.
Mm. My teacher used to say it's like the monkey bars of you can't let go of the one you've been holding on to before you get that momentum of but you also you need to keep going, and yet also remind yourself it's okay to hold on, but also it's okay to let go. And it's there's a book that changed my life in my 20s by Neville Goddard, and it's The Power of Awareness. And there's a chapter, I think it's the last chapter, chapter 11, which is the concept you hold of yourself. And that really helped me, because I was in a toxic relationship, and I felt like I was stuck and that I was going to die miserable in that relationship. I didn't know that I could leave. I thought I was actually stuck in it because of how it was framed. And I remember just seeing, like you're saying, I in a little petri dish in my mind, I grew a new concept of myself. And every day I would feed it. Every day I would nurture it and nourish it with, one day I'll have my own place again. One day I'll be doing something one day I'll be able to make my own money where no one can tell me how to spend it. One day I'll be able to go out and not have to get criticized for how I'm dressed. And I have that now. And it's amazing. And like you said, I don't end there. There's something now next. And I think that's part of what we get caught up in, especially as women, because we are bred to multitask, to take care of so many things. And I think sometimes the last thing is we forget to take care of ourselves, which is the most important thing. And I sometimes get stuck in not wanting to do anything because taking care of me is the most important. And so I've had to learn to really, really reinforce these little petri dishes that I want to grow into, to hold this new concept of myself moving forward. And like you said, to be willing to metamorphosize from where I've been and integrate with where I'm going. And I think that is the hardest piece. Now that I'm attempting to move out of the country and let everything go. And no, I have no idea. But I think part of the beauty is I have no clue what I'm about to enter in, and it's exciting. And I'm ready. And I think being prepared, which is what we can close on today, is, yes, you offer Body by Simone and digital courses and at-home workouts, and lately you've been offering the 8-week training program, strength training, and then personal training sessions, personal coaching, transformational coaching. And I believe I have a mentor, I have an astrologer, I have a hypnotherapist, a psychotherapist, a personal trainer. And I find that when I invest in myself, it allows me to be a better coach, a better mentor to people, because there's so much more of me really available, and I've been able to do that work and push forward. So with a sense of flow. So share with us a little bit about what you're offering now, and what people can look to receiving from you from this transformational place of coaching and mentoring.
Yeah, as I've grown and evolved as a woman, I think, so has the business in a way. I was originally known as the dance cardio queen, when I first started. And I think, what I've learned along the years working with women is that, it's the transformation has to kind of come from within. And so it's that idea of like we're focused so much on like how do I look rather than how I feel. And so I really wanted to just try and change the the dialogue around that and focus on your mental health, which is obviously so important these days. And really, like working out and feeling good, all of that is so combined. Like if one thing is not aligned, you're not going to be operating at your highest self. So that means your physical health, your mental health, your spiritual health, and emotional. But that all has to come together. And so I think people just go, oh well, to be healthy you have to just eat a salad and work out every day. And it's like, no, it's so much more than that. So really asking women to dig deeper into what is health to them and what is wellness to them, and not just like what is fitness, or what are you putting on your plate. And then also just evolving with where you are in your life. Like, don't make comparisons to how a 20-year-old is working out. If you're in your late 40s and you need to focus on strength training, you have to let go of all of the older habits and routines that we used to do. That's okay, and that's a part of aging too, which I think we didn't really get to talking about too much. But as women, it's like we're all living in this society where we should be young. We're desperately trying to hold on to being young, that we're not accepting all the changes that are happening to us and to our bodies. So I guess at the end of the day, it's just about self-love and self-acceptance, and how you get to that point, through aligning all of the physical, mental, and spiritual and emotional health.
And I find what you do really well, working with so many people and coaches, I feel that you have a way of inspiring people to not feel ashamed of their natural beauty, but it's like you bring it out of us. You bring out that spark that maybe to us is a flaw, but you help us kind of shine with it. It's a feeling I feel that you inspire, and I feel that's what is the missing piece, because I've worked with so many people that you can't really teach them to care and love. Like you have to love helping people. You have to love wanting to see them shine, and not make it all about you, about us, but it's about, oh, look where you can go, look what you can be, and highlighting them. And I think you do that really well, which in turn just makes you shine brighter. But it's important, I feel, to inspire other women. As you mentioned, just instead of competitive, let's collaborate. Let's see how we can support one another. So is there anything else that would help us to find you, where to go to find you? Is it body
Simone, like SimoneDeLaRue.com is more of my transformational, like wellness coaching. Simone De La Rue official on Instagram, Body by Simone digital studio, and the app, are where all the workouts are. I think that's kind of it. The digital studio has got some really great, lots of the strength program, lots of programs and motivational things on there, which I think would really be helpful to a lot of people.
Amazing. Well, I appreciate your time with us.
Love. Bye-bye.
OG Mastery, the original gangsta, God and Goddess, all coming into mastery. We're coming into you. This is where we talk business, sex, relationships, money, health, entrepreneurship, and self-awareness.